Today we're speedrunning Raft, and this speedrun starts once myself and my friends Bryan, Chris, and Purple Hair Guy spawn into the game. And right away we start with the game plan of distracting the shark. For this, we need Bryan to swim off into the ocean, that way he can get the shark's aggro, and the rest of us can freely swim to the first island. Then, while we're swimming, we want to use a technique called water hopping. Basically, Raft considers you to be over or underwater based on where your camera is. So we can hop through the water repeatedly by jumping, moving our camera underwater, pulling the camera back up, and jumping again. By doing this well, we can move around 3.8 meters per second, while regular swimming has you going around 3 meters per second, so it's a nice increase. And while we're doing this, we can also pick up resources like wood, plastic, and palm leaves, which we'll be using throughout the run. Now, after moving for a bit, we have a 20% chance to continue the run, since there are only 2 starting islands that have a good enough amount of sand and clay, and 8 others which don't. The islands we want are either the Spiky Rock or Skewed Tree Island, and this time we got the Spiky Rock. So we're on to island resource gathering, which myself, Chris, and Purple Hair Guy will do, while Bryan stays home with the shark, who we affectionately named Sam Sharks, by the way. And for this first resource gathering section, our main goal is to get 26 sand and 26 clay. These resources only spawn in the water by an island, and we want to collect them as soon as possible, since once we get what we need, it's then time to drown and return home before using the sand and clay to craft 13 wet bricks, which we'll place on the raft. It's crucial to do this as soon as possible because the wet bricks then take 5 minutes to turn into dry bricks, which are necessary to make smelters. So while Bryan is waiting for those to dry, the rest of us will go to any island we see and continue collecting resources until we have at least 14 copper, 7 metal, 7 vines, and 12 more sand and clay to make a third smelter. Then once the smelters are up, Bryan can start smelting resources until he's able to craft a receiver, battery, and 3 antennas. We then need to place these things fairly far away from each other, which is the reason for our weirdly designed raft, and our early game resource gathering is finally finished, so now it's time to follow the receiver over to the radio tower. For this, we'll set up a sail to move us in the direction of the radio tower, and always have one person paddling the raft to increase its speed. Then everyone else can continue resource gathering, and Chris can wage war against Sam Sharks for some reason.
I killed him! Quick, play the Final Fantasy victory music! Rawr. Rawr.
Yeah, he is a strange guy. Now, once we got close enough to the radio tower, Purple Hair Guy was able to swim over and do some platforming up to the top. Once he got there, he just needed to grab a note and reveal the coordinates for the next location, Vasagatan. I was then able to put that in our receiver, and we set sails for there next. And here we'll sail until we're around 1,000 meters away from Vasagatan, and then Purple Hair Guy gets to take his next journey of water hopping with some newly acquired flippers for extra speed, while the rest of us will turn the raft sail around and start paddling in the opposite direction. This is because our next objective will always be back towards where we came from, so we can get a head start at that as long as Purple Hair Guy can maintain a good angle and stay on track towards Vasagatan. And thankfully, he did just that and made it to this ship, where there's going to be a bit more complicated platforming this time. First, he can get an extra high jump to get over this railing by changing his water quality from fastest to extreme, and then holding forward and jump while the game lags. Then by manipulating his camera, he's able to open a normally locked door by making it think he's on the inside of the room before climbing up the ship to go through it. Then he just needs to do that a couple more times as he makes his way up the boat to get the next note, along with some blueprints for the engine and steering wheel. This marks a pretty great part of the run, since the engine speeds up our raft significantly and the steering wheel lets us move in the exact direction we want. So we'll build both of these new parts and head to our next location, Balboa Island. Here we'll have a pretty similar strategy as last time of getting around 1,000 meters away before swimming to the island, but this time instead of just Purple Hair Guy, Chris and I will be going as well. This is because Balboa Island has 3 different relay stations you need to activate, so we can each focus on one of them to get it done a bit faster. I'm going to relay station 4, which requires a super jump to make it over this bridge area before heading up a bunch of stairs and activating the station. Purple Hair Guy got relay station 6, where he needed to platform through some really scary looking green goo before hitting his station, and finally Chris had relay station 2, where he needs to do 2 super jumps up a cliff before hitting the final power box and getting our coordinates for Caravan. So like usual, we'll put that number in our receiver and make our way to the next objective, where this time it'll be up to me. Now Caravan starts off with me using some super jumps to scale up a mountain, and then we're able to look through a boarded up window and grab the mayor's chest key. After that, we need to get to the mayor's chest, so I like to jump off this cliff onto a really thin rope where I need to be careful with only moving while in the air, otherwise we'll get knocked off. After that, there's one last super jump we need to do before opening the chest and getting directions to Tangaroa. I also grabbed the mayor's hat here because I mean, just look how good I look in it. Anyways, for Tangaroa, this time we won't send out someone to swim there early, and instead we'll ride the raft over the entire way. Once we're close enough, Bryan is then able to build a set of 10 thatch roofs with 2 chairs on top, and Purple Hair Guy and Bryan can sit on those chairs to go directly through the bubble around Tangaroa right into the city. Yeah, this game has really weird physics. From here, Bryan gets to have a much needed vacation in the city, while Purple Hair Guy goes to the center. He needs to manipulate his camera through the center building to open the door from the outside, ride an elevator to the top, and enter the code 4813 to blow a building off the top of the city. So all that's left is to swim over to it, climb up a ladder, and grab our next note to Veruna, where it's time for me to play again. After I swim to Veruna, what I want to do is enter the building from its exit, so we don't need to do any of the usually required tasks. For this, I'll swim down to this point and then jump out of the water before crouching to get a bit of extra height onto this platform. Then all I need to do is slide back into the water on the other side, enter the building through a pipe, and we can grab the note to Temperance in this really creepy room. We're now on to our second to last location before we finish the run, so it was time for Chris to shine, and he's got some pretty hard tricks to do. First, Chris will go grab a snowmobile to move faster through the snow and make it easier to dodge polar bears. Then he can make his way to this first location, where also this happened, by the way. Yeah, apparently polar bears are magical. Anyways, from here, it's time for some more camera manipulation to open up a door, followed by even more camera manipulation to grab the sling key through a locked drawer. Then Chris made his way to the place with the huge glowing green lights, before yet again using some camera manipulation to open this door with the sling key without using a blowtorch first. After that, he needs to line himself up extremely precisely to be almost perfectly in the middle of the now open door before quitting to the main menu and loading back in the game. Unfortunately, his first time didn't work, but it's super simple to set up this trick again, and once he loaded back in the second time around, he did it correctly and was now under the map. So all that's left is to walk through the out of bounds into the final area of Temperance, grab the note for the location of Utopia, and we're finally on to the last bit of our speedrun, which means it's finally time to extend Bryan's thatch roof collection until it's 82 roofs tall before he put another chair at the top. This is really expensive on resources, but that's why we made sure to focus on collecting a bunch of wood and palm leaves throughout the run. And then I was able to sit down and tell my friends what direction to steer in to perfectly clip into the top of this building and completely scare Olaf. To be fair, I would also be terrified if someone went straight through the wall of my house, and this fear caused him to fall out the window, where we can take his master key before making our way over to the building where Olaf trapped a bunch of people and end off time as soon as we get the final cutscene. And this is gonna put us at second place on the speedrun leaderboards. Just barely missed first place too by a little bit over a minute, but hey, it was still an amazing run and we're all proud of it. Alright, subscribe if you enjoyed. Bye.